Okay, this is chapter 1.7 notes. Alright, when I have 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, this can be written in shorthand as 3 to the 4th power. Now the 3 is your base, so this is your base, and 4 happens to be your exponent. Now, notice it's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, not 3 times 4. So 3 to the 4th power is never equal to 3 times 4. By the way, this never ever never goes away, so I promise you need to get friendly with it right now. So, write 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 9 times 9 times 9 using exponents. So that would give us 3, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 of these, times 9, and there are 4 of those. I just caught a mistake. This 4 here should be a 5 because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. So let me make those corrections. Now, when it just asks you to rewrite these using exponents, this is the answer that they want. Okay? Now, how in the world do you put this into my math lab? Well, I am so glad you asked that. On the keypad somewhere there's going to be a little box that has a grayed out box and then a bright blue box that looks like that. Another way, which is kind of a shorthand, is on your keyboard you're going to click Shift and the number 6 that has that little hat on top of it. Click those at the same time. Now if you've got another one where you've got to put times and then another set, make sure you hit the arrow over key in order to get away from the exponent. Now 6 to the 1st power, that's the same thing as just saying 6. Now when it's asking you to rewrite as an exponent and evaluate, these are not the same questions and they're not looking for those same answers. So when it says rewrite in exponential form, this is 2 times 2 times 2, so 2 to the 3rd power times, and that's 5 to the 2nd power. That's what it wants. But when it says to evaluate it, well, that's 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 times 5, which is 10, times 5. Then 4 times 10 is 40 times 5, which gives us 200. Okay? Again, if you have questions, do not ever hesitate to ask. Now, order of operations, and I know a lot of people really have problems with this. But if you follow these steps, it should help a lot. Now, your order of operations, and I know a lot of people use PEMDAS, but it's taught incorrectly a lot of times, and I don't like it. So, parentheses or exponents, these are 100-pound dogs in a fight. And you want to take out the big dogs first. Then you've got multiply or divide. These are 50-pound dogs in a fight. Then plus or minus. These are little ankle biters. Now, before we get into how to apply it, first we have to know it's from left to right. And also, when it says parentheses, it could mean parentheses, square brackets, curly braces, fraction bars, absolute value signs, radical signs, etc. So when it says parentheses, it just basically means grouping symbols. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move that. Order of operations will bleed into every part of every math class from here out. So, no toxic dumping is allowed at the end of this chapter. Now, another thing, never, ever, never do these in steps. So, 4 to the third power, just like we learned above, is 4 times 4 times 4. And then plus, and I'm going to put my bracket down. 3 squared is 3 times 3 minus, okay? And because these are separated, I can do them at the same time as I do this one because it's separated. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Now because everything in this parenthesis is circled, I can get rid of the parentheses. Now I bring my bracket down and then minus, and 7 times 3 is 21. Again, I can do this because it's separated. Now, as I look, I'm going to do these multiply at the same time, and I'm going to work in this bracket, and I'm going to do, again, when I've got a choice, multiply and minus. Multiply is a bigger dog than minus. So you got to take that big dog out of the fight first. Now, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64 plus bracket 9 minus 5, close it up, minus 21. Now I still have that bracket, so I circle that, and since everything is circled, I get rid of the bracket. 64 plus 4 minus 21, and 64 plus 4 is 68 minus 21, and when I subtract those, that gives me 47. If you try to do this in pieces, you're going to get it wrong every time, and I promise you that. So never, ever do them in pieces. Now, 7 squared. So that's 7 times 7, which is 49. And I have to say plus, and remember, if there's nothing between 3 and bracket, it's times. Times is a bigger dog than plus, so don't try to add before you times. And then 20 minus 7, I can do that because it's separated, and that gives me 13. And I can actually get rid of the parenthesis because everything in the parenthesis is circled. Then minus 10, close up the bracket, plus 17. Now, again, times is a bigger dog than plus, so I leave the 49 plus 3. Now, 3 minus 13 leaves us times 3, and then plus 17. Times is a bigger dog than plus, so I have to do the times. So 49 plus 9 plus 17. Now 9 plus 9 is 18, so I take the 8 plus 1, that's 58, plus 17. 8 plus 7 is 15, so I'm going to add 1, so that's 2, 7. So the answer here is 75. Again, if you have questions, ask. Find the area of a square is basically the same as finding the area of a rectangle. The only difference is that the length is the same as the width. Therefore, they tend to call it a side, or S. So area is length times width. And can you continue using that? Absolutely. But you could also use the shortcut of S squared. So the area of this square is 5 squared, which is the same thing as 5 times 5, which is 25. And you remember the units? A mile times a mile is a square mile. And that is the end of chapter 1.7.